Watercolor painters, you are in for like a giant treat today. Tony White in Australia. What are you going to do today?
Hi, Eric. I am going to show everybody two techniques that will make your watercolors fresh. So, what I thought I'd show everyone today is um, a couple of techniques that'll just good to refresh your memory on and good to remind yourself of every once in a while.
Or
And
we might not even know them. You know, people like me
that,
might not know them.
well, that's right. I mean, it's more a mental game, really. It's just a matter of reminding yourself to do the right things as you paint, or the when I say right things, I mean there's no right or wrong really, but it's these are tried and true methods that'll get you some nice fresh watercolors. Because the last thing you want to do is overwork anything. Um, but what I want to do first is just give everyone a bit of a rundown of my materials. Just people love that stuff. You've got to
Yep.
give the people what they want, Eric. Got to give them what they want. Um, let's have a look. I'll go brushes first. Let's have a look at brushes. I'm using mostly Neef brushes, are an Australian brand. They make, I love these ones, the Thomas Shaler signature series. They're just a long pointy mop. That's a prototype, a little flat one that I use sometimes. There's a dodgy foliage brush that I
Can you
just.
move them up a little bit higher?
Oh,
There we
sorry
go.
about that. Yep.
There we go.
And yeah, they're just there's an Escoda is snuck in there, just a little perler for small stuff. Um, Robert Wade flat brush. There's these ones here. This one's good. It's a strange kind of rigger slash dagger. It's a Anders Anderson signature brush, and of course all Alvaro Castanet's brushes are Neef, and that's one of his little riggers, little needle points that he uses. So Neef brushes are fantastic.
Oh, and
Fantastic.
there they
So
go.
there they go. That's all right. I caught it. It was disaster averted. Um, but they're fantastic. So check those out. Um, Paints, I use Daniel Smith. I'm not, brand ambassadors for any of these. I just use these because I think they're the best. Paper, I do use Bao Hong. It's a Chinese watercolor paper that is very economical in comparison to some of the other brands, and really great once you get used to it. I use the cold press, so the medium texture. I use the rough sometimes, but their rough is very rough, so it's a particular style of painting. You want to get stuck in with that, but the medium is good for me. And I'll just sort of show you my colors. Um, Good
I don't
way
think
to
we need to go through them one by one. I think
don't need to go.
no,
Cool.
let's not. We don't have a lot of time today, so let's just.
Yeah, cool.
You can post them later in the comments
Yeah,
if
for
you want.
sure. No problem whatsoever. I'll explain a little bit about them as I paint, but realistically, I just think about the warm and the cool stuff anyway. Doesn't really matter what the name is on the tubes so much. Um, but what I want to do is show you. Obviously, you can see the reference photo there in the corner. Um, what what I want to do though is simplify that, and this is what we should always be looking at. Simplify that into big shapes, middle shapes, and little shapes. So that's the way I look at it: big, middle, and little. So big shapes here for me are your water and your sky. That's usually the case. Your ground and your sky in landscape paintings. Um, the middle shape is this one, which is where all your activity is really, and the little shapes for me are things like the rope on the little log, uh, the just the tiny little bits here and there, and we'll probably put in a little splash of red somewhere, make something up to uh, bring it all to life. But that's the way you got to think, and don't get bogged down in thinking that I need to paint every single tuft of grass and all that kind of stuff. So we don't want that. Simplify, simplify, simplify. I'm going to start painting. Now, cloudy skies for me are great fun. Now, this is just water at the moment. I'm just putting it down in random spots so that you've got some wet paper, some dry paper, and you'll catch different effects as you go through. So just get stuck in. I'm not too worried about the outcome. Like I think a lot of artists get bogged down in the outcome. The process is where it's at. So if your process is, and by process, I don't by any stretch mean be a formula painter or anything like that. What I mean is the joy of painting, the actual painting itself. If you get that down and you fall in love with that, the results will take care of themselves.
It looks like you have a piece of masking tape on the pole. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. Look, I don't use masking fluid very often. When I do, it's just tiny little things here and there. But with something like this pole, I wanted, because it's a fair element. I wanted to mask it off so I could take care of these washes, and masking tape's just the easiest way to do it. Look, Eric, I'm pretty lazy and lazy by nature, and I think that that lends itself to watercolors beautifully, because if you can do things quickly and to the point, then you're winning. And so I just find the easiest way to do things and give it a crack.
Your buddy Tim Oliver says, "Go Tony."
Hey Tim, how are you, mate? How are you? Thank you very much. No, if anyone's got any questions out there as I paint, absolutely, please
Yeah, just
join
put them
in.
in the comments and I'll read them.
Absolutely, good stuff. So with the sky, that's done for me. The sky is not the major part of the painting. Once again, simplifying. I'm not going out there and looking for every single cloud shape or anything like that. I'm not getting bogged down in every little detail and that cloud's not there. That's not good. No, you just paint and you get stuck in. Just
Do you
do
have
it.
your paper at an angle?
Yeah, so slightly. It's probably I don't know what angle it is, but it's probably
Slight.
about.
It's a slight angle.
Yeah, it's just gravity helps. Gravity helps. It's one of the few areas in life that gravity does help, Eric. So we need to enjoy that while we can. But no, you need that gravity, I believe, to force the washes down the page and stop them from pooling so much on your paper. And it's all good. I couldn't do it without an angle. Some people do, and I freak out. And I just go, "How do you do it?" It's crazy. But I need all the help I can get. Let's have a look. Yeah,
That looks like an Indian yellow.
this is a Hansa Yellow Deep.
All right.
It's called Hansa Yellow. But as I say, all Daniel Smith stuff. I forget the names of some of them sometimes, but I always experiment with different colours. I have my staples like your burnt siennas and ultramarine and things that I couldn't live without. But yeah, a lot of yellows and some reds and things I do experiment with for sure. So all I'm doing here is I'm just getting this undercoat. I'm treating all of this first wash as an undercoat, and I'll start bringing things down. Big brush. That's another thing about simplification is we don't want to use little brushes for big areas. That's what I see. When I've sort of had this thing with my students over the years of don't just little brushes are stupid, but they're not stupid. They're stupid in the way that some people will try and paint this wash with a small brush, because they think they'll make smaller mistakes or something. I don't know. But realistically, you just got to be confident and get the paint on the page as quick as you can. So this is obviously just the undercoat of what we're doing. So, and up here, all these trees are. I'm thinking of the lightest tones, the lightest part of the tree, and that's what I'm sort of putting in. And Yeah, a little bit careful here and there. It doesn't matter if anything goes too crazy.
One thing about
But
watercolor is you have to be really, you have to plan, you have to think in advance.
absolutely, that's right. And that's where people, like the best watercolorists, I believe, in my opinion, paint fairly quickly. But I guarantee you, they've thought about it for a long time, and that's the way I always look at it. I always say, think for as long as you like, but when it comes time to put the paint on the paper, do it quickly, get it done. Uh, it's imperative to have a plan, but it's also somewhat contradictorily, it's also imperative to be able to stray from that plan when watercolor does its own thing. So don't try and force it too much. Um, what I've got to do now, Eric, is just give it a little bit of a dry off. We're all dried off.
All right.
Um, what I am looking at doing is starting background to foreground, basically, and this is sort of where it gets pretty sort of quick. It's not too big a journey here. So one thing you've got to remember, these techniques that I was talking about to simplify, is this distant hill, for example, perfect example of where a lot of people will get bogged down and try and make everything just be perfect and exactly the same. Go, oh look, I can see there's like a little bunch of houses over there, so let's just paint them all in. Nah, it's just rubbish. So all you got to do, it's crazy the things that people stress themselves out about. Let's
I
don't
want
worry
to point
about it.
something out too to people who might not realize this. When you put that dark next to the white of the boat or the yellow of the boat, it's going to make that
Yeah,
boat stand out even more.
absolutely, and that's right. And when the reflections go on like this, the second coat of reflections to bring that boat out. That's the thing. You've got to keep your eyes on the prize. Don't stress too much about um, every little. Don't worry about this little bit as you're painting it. Just get it on. Away you go. It's a background, and treat it as such. That's the that's the thing. Treat the areas like they deserve to be treated, and it's not with contempt or anything. It's just be realistic about what you're trying to achieve, and away you go. You'll
So
be
your
right.
focus, you're going to put the most attention and detail into your focal point.
Yep, that's right. And the focal point, it's basically where all the little nitty gritty bits are. That's the way I kind of look at it. Um, this I wanted to take the reference photo here. I wanted to take the focus a little bit off the bushes and the grass and things there by simplifying um, in this little area, but also so I can make the boat the standout focal point rather than have it compete with the light that's on these. But all I'm doing here, like this is the thing. Hold your brush right down to the very end so you've got minimal control and just make it look a bit natural, a bit organic, and away we go. Put the paint on. Now I need to get some darks down here as well as, finesse a few little things. But get some sepia or something. Sepia is nice. Just put it on. A lot of people I see, um, this is just my opinion, I suppose, on this, but a lot of people I see will get scraps of paper and scraps of white paper, and they'll test their colours on that paper before they paint. Um, all the while their painting's drying, so it's losing its intrinsic watercolor charm, so to speak. Um, but you're not painting on white paper. You're painting against the colors that you've already got down on your page. So it's a little bit of a pointless exercise doing the whole white paper thing. But just do a bit of a test on your page, and away you go. Life's short. You don't have to worry about getting into all that stuff. You just paint, and you'll be right. So just getting a couple of colors in. Want to make the contrast a little bit stronger with the distance there. Just on this little edge here is
Yet
fine.
if you get too dark, it's going to not read like distance. That's
Yeah, that's
tricky.
right.
That's tricky.
Exactly. So you got to layer it, and remember remember your drying shifts with watercolor. That's a really tricky part of watercolor, is learning what the how the paint's going to react when you, depending on its viscosity, when it hits a certain moisture level of paper. um, and that's just something you kind of can't teach. You've got to learn by doing that sort of thing. It's a feel that you develop. Sometimes you get it wrong. um, it's happened many times, but you've got to develop that and use your palette. Use your palette to, there's a reason that they're white, is you can use them to gain a feel for your paper, and how it's going to react. And just get stuck in. Fail many times. Don't be scared to fail. None of it's failure. Look, I always put it this way: even if your painting didn't turn out very well, you're still ahead of the person that didn't paint today. You know, that's the way I look at it. Now here I've just got this needle brush, a little rigger, and I've got no paint on. It's just water, and I'm holding it right down the end, and I've kind of got the shakes. I always get the shakes. Just let it go, and it's just going to leave some textural marks behind.
Your
And
hand is moving pretty well for a guy who's up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
oh, I'm going all right, mate. I love it. Nothing better to do than paint. That's all right. Well, I'll do this any time of day. It's fine. And the good thing is, the kids are asleep, so there's no risk of them coming in and ruining our day. No, just joking. I love.
How many kids do you have? What ages?
They are 7 and 4.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, crazy. They're crazy little kids, but no, they're good value. I love them.
They're all
Let's
crazy.
have let's have a look. What I'm wanting to do here is I want to start work on the boat. See, I'm looking at that now, going, well, that's okay. That'll be enough. And that's the thing is with watercolor. If it looks right when it's wet, then chances are it's wrong. So it looks a little bit strong, but once it dries, I'm confident that that'll recede enough.
That's a great quote. So if it looks right, it's probably wrong.
If it looks right when it's wet, it's probably wrong. So you've got to always paint a little stronger. That's why a lot of people's watercolors end up looking a bit weak and insipid, is just because they're just not pushing it hard enough. And if you push it a bit harder, when it dries, you'll be okay. Like anything, it doesn't always work that way, but it's a good way to get your head around it a bit. Now, this boat, we still don't want to get bogged down. I'll say that. I'll use that terminology a lot, but I just want to sit it on the water a bit. So I've just got a bit of, it's rubbish. I couldn't even tell you what color that is, but it's a bit of natural sienna and whatever grey or rubbish is hanging around the palette, basically, just to dull it down a bit. And I've just got a bit of water that I'm softening things with, and I'll put a bit of texture, make the boat look a little bit used, a bit dirty. And as I say, a lot of this is undercoat, so you might not even see some of it, but it's all part of the process. And you don't want to do too much on this side, especially because it's our light, it's our major light source. We want to be nice and subtle there. It's good. And just going into a little bit of sepia. Ooh, not thick enough, not enough paint. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but I either pick up, $100 worth of paint on a single brush, or not enough. So always struggle. All right, there we go. That's good. So that's just going to filter out a bit and do its thing. That's fine. And I'm constantly looking. Here's another. This tip's for free, Eric. Don't go in and out of your water jug all day, your water tub, because you've got moisture on your palette already, and chances are it's from your painting that you're currently doing. So use that moisture where you can. I've got a bit of grey there. Now it's probably not going to be strong enough. Yeah, it's all right. It's not too bad. But use that, because all you're doing every time you go in and out of your water jug, all you're doing is diluting the paint, and therefore diluting your end result somewhat.
Good to know.
So
So here's a
yeah,
question from Rob,
yep.
and I don't know
Hey,
where
Rob.
he is. It
No
says,
worries.
can mistakes be corrected when using watercolors, such as making an eye too big, or would you have to start again?
Somewhat. Like there's a myth around that you just can't correct anything in watercolor. That's a bit of a myth, but it's difficult. It depends on the scale of the mistake. Something like an eye in a portrait or something is, oh, yeah, that'd be tricky to correct. It depends how early in the process it is. If it's early on and it's still damp, just blot it out. Absolutely. It might not
Somebody
be
told
end
me
up.
the other day, depending on the paper you're using, if you're
Yep.
using, I don't remember which it was, cold pressed, I think, you
Mhm.
can take some water and kind of almost erase things by putting water in there, dilute it and wipe it out.
Yeah, you absolutely can. It'll just be what pigments that you've used in there, because some are stronger than others. So, for example, um, cobalt blue doesn't lift out very well. It's
Yeah.
just real strong. But yeah, some do and some don't. But the important part is, I always sort of think of it like this: is when you make a mistake in watercolor, absolutely give it a crack, try and fix it. If it doesn't work, it's just another opportunity to do it again and paint and
Yeah.
learn more. That's the that. I mean, it sounds a bit flippant and a bit glib, but it's just one of those things that every time you paint, you learn something, and if you're making a mistake, then that's just a learning process as well. So
Okay.
it's there's never a wasted painting. That's for sure.
Thanks for the question, Rob in Newcastle, England. Now it's Cookie Kate's. Is sepia a color to be mixed, or can it be purchased pre-mixed?
Purchase premix. Mine
Yeah.
just, I mean, you can obviously um, buy it on its own, absolutely. But if you mix it, I would. It's a bit tough because it does have a certain strength to it, but burnt sienna and ultramarine mostly burnt sienna would come close. I like sepia for it's a pretty dirty color. It'll stain things really quickly, but yeah, it's one of those ones that you're better off just getting it in the tin and using it, and you can mix it with other colors too. It's a really good mixing color, just to dull things down a little bit if you need to. So yeah, it's got a few little quirks, but it's one of my favorite colors. It's becoming one of my favorites.
All right.
Now the boat's doing its thing. That's all okay. Want to careful of any hard edges, but that doesn't matter. See this bit here, this hard edge, that's going to be reflections soon, so it doesn't matter. That's the thing. Don't get bogged down in that stuff, because you go, well, I'm going to cover that in a second, so it's fine. Life's good. Let's have a look. I've got second coat of reflections.
Okay.
Now this is where it starts to come to life. I always leave a bit of a line at the horizon, a bit of a white line. It just seems to give it a bit more of a glow in the distance. But you can see now, just by putting that color down there, that bit of bluey grey color, that it's already getting this boat locked in and popping out at us. Now, pointy brushes, imperative, imperative for reflections like this, I believe, because you've got to have that control. You want to be able to flatten it out and do a big mark, and then use the tip to put a bit more finesse in here and there. And I am just putting a few marks, sort of, it looks sort of at random, and I suppose it is, but I think mostly with reflections, if there's any real tip I could give with reflections, it would be to keep your brushstrokes fairly horizontal. Um, Reflections go all sorts of directions because of the wind and all that kind of stuff, absolutely. But and we observe that kind of thing when we're painting plein air, but it's generally looks better in pictures, in paintings, when uh, they're all sort of flat and horizontal.
That's good advice.
And
It's something that Joe McGurl told me when we were out plein air painting one day. He
yeah,
said, even though your horizon, or, you might have an island or something that looks a little bit angled, he said it'll read better typically if you keep it flat, especially in the distance.
yeah, absolutely. It just does. I mean, unless you, I've sort of found, unless you're doing a painting that is someone specific, say someone's sitting in a boat and they've just turned around, or something like a little dinghy, and they've just turned around and they've left uh, the concentric rings on the, ripples on the water. Um, those sort of marks, that's fine because it reads fine in the context of the picture. But um, generally speaking, because you could be looking at this picture on any given day, and the wind's different and the reflections are going a certain direction. But I don't know. I've just always found it looks better whenever you try to
Yeah.
duplicate reality. You get a bit stuck, I think. So our
Oh, that's
reference.
really reading. That back mountain really reads like distance. It's just so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's amazing when it comes together, and that's why when the more you paint, the more you get confidence knowing that it'll all come together. Sometimes it doesn't. Don't get me wrong, but the more you paint, the more you practice. I hate using the word practice, even though it's exactly what it is. People get scared of it for some reason. I don't. I don't see it like sitting down to practice the violin after school or something. It's you just paint. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Just paint something and you
You're
practice it.
painting, you're having fun. Even if you're
Yeah,
struggling, you're having fun.
absolutely. Where else would you rather be? Exactly right. That's the way I look at it, and you'll get better a lot quicker if you get obsessed by it. Do you play golf, Eric?
I try not to.
Yeah, I know. Um, the people who play golf will know that it quickly becomes an obsession, and I think there are a lot of golf widows out there. It becomes an obsession, and that's kind of what watercolor is
Yeah.
for me. Is that I just dream about it. It's kind of sad, really. But
No,
if
it's
it's
wonderful, and that's why I don't play golf, is because I'm obsessed with painting.
yeah,
And
that's
if
right.
I have time to go outdoors and spend 2 hours, I'm gonna be painting instead of golfing.
Yeah, that's right. That's my priorities have changed over the years. Absolutely.
I might be on the edge of the golf course painting.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful subjects. Beautiful subjects. What I've got to do, I'm sort of at the end of this little section, so um, I'm just going to darken up this a tiny bit, this reflection, just drop a couple of little bits in. I don't want to make too much of the reflection here. I do want to just strengthen it so that it reads a little better and different to the other side. But I don't want to put any sort of hard edges or anything like that. I want to keep it nice and soft because I know the edges from the reflection that I do from the pole are going to be nice and strong. So just a little bit of subtlety in there, and because there's a lot of water around in on the paper, I'm aware that it's going to dry up a lot lighter, and I don't want it to be too weak.
Well,
And
I'm
I'm just
anxious to see what you do when you peel that tape off.
yeah, hopefully realize that I've put it on properly, strong
It
enough.
has to be pretty dry when you do that, otherwise you're gonna get the water bleeding into it, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have to dry this off real quick though. Won't take long. This hairdryer is quite powerful, But
Okay, I'll take another quick break and we'll be right
cool.
back.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hey, I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm finding it mesmerizing. I have really gotten into watercolor lately. I'm just going nuts with watercolor, and I still paint in oils. But I have these moments in time when I just don't feel like, putting all my colors out and going through all that nonsense. And so, but my watercolor, I just leave it set up, have a separate easel set up, and I just start painting in watercolor. It's wonderful. And I'm also doing a little of that in pastel. All of this has been driven by Watercolor Live, Pastel Live, etc. And so I hope you guys will join us for Watercolor Live. I think it's going to be really outstanding this year. The audience is growing like mad. It's insane. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day. And let's see, I probably should tell you about one other thing. And that is that the videos that you see here on Art School Live are mostly with artists who are in their studios on their cell phones and so on. But when we produce our videos for painttube.tv, we have over 600 professionally produced art instruction courses that have, like pro quality cameras, not consumer cameras, but pro, like the kind they use in Hollywood. And we have people who've been in Hollywood, who've done major films, and we really try to do it right. Great sound, extreme close-ups, really, really crisp, high definition quality. And so that's what you can find at PaintTube. And right now, if you go to PaintTube this week, there is on the website some Christmas specials. It's 12 days of Christmas, so there's different special every day. But there's a lot of good deals on there. And by the way, all the prices are going up January 1 because of inflation, unfortunately, but we have to do it. But we're keeping them low, and we've got a lot of stuff on discount right now. Also should mention Plein Air Convention is coming up, and we're pretty excited about that. That's going to be in Denver in May, and we're just kind of waiting so we can announce our celebrity guest. We were told soon after the first of the year, so we're just kind of fingers crossed on that. But it's pretty exciting. And if you're a member of we have actually 2 levels of VIP at the Plein Air Convention. One of those levels sold out the first day we offer it. And that level, they're going on excursions and tours to art studios with me and some others. And but that's sold out. But the other VIP gives you front row seating, gives you special privileges, a lounge where you have access to some things. You get to participate in some dinners and stuff. And you are going to get your picture taken with this celebrity, which is going to be pretty cool if you're VIP. Okay, we're going to get back to Tony. Tony, are you ready?
All right, I'm ready, mate. Absolutely ready to rock. So you can see that the tape came off nice and successfully, so that's good. How are we doing for time, Eric?
We'll give you another 10.
Cool, perfect. All right, I'll get my skates on. So here we go. This is why I wanted to mask this area out to leave so I can work purely on white paper, just so I get this nice bright light on this left-hand side as we look at it. If you don't mask something like that out, yeah, you can lift it out and all that kind of stuff, but it's just not going. It's just not going to read as nicely. Just taking a little bit of care with that. I don't care too much about whether it's precise or not, but I just want to make sure all I'm looking for is making sure that I keep this edge absolutely, but just make sure we get the nice gradation across, and just again with clean brush, tiny bit of water in it. I'll just up and down, get the shakes a little bit there, and you get a bit of texture, and that's always handy. And you can see that that's starting to read three-dimensionally almost. So that's a good sign. Just move that across a bit. You always want to be squinting your eyes. It's an old trick, obviously. Everyone does it or should do it if they don't. But yeah, step back, squint your eyes, and you'll soon see the things that aren't working, and that way you can just fix them. And let's have a quick look. Just got a little bit of a line as it sits on the water there. And let's get a reflection going down here. Now, I didn't bother masking the bottom out because there's sort of no need to, because the reflection is going to be stronger. As usual, it's not always the case, but reflections are usually stronger in tone and value than the object that they are reflecting. So need to make sure that works.
Well, also some of your ripples are kind of showing up underneath, so it feels like it's on the water.
That's right, exactly. And that's the thing. You gotta have that transparency. And if you start losing the transparency, then that's when it doesn't become, or it doesn't remain, a watercolor. You know, you've got to have those intrinsic values with watercolor and exploit them. You know, like these. You know, water and paint moves around on its own with watercolor, so you must by all means and at all costs, you must take advantage of that, because it just makes your life easier. And that's all okay. So that's reading. I'm looking at that now, and it is not strong, not quite strong enough. Sorry. And I'll just move that again. And whenever it's wet, you can go for it. But that's all I want to do there. So now I'll just focus on this boat. Bear in mind the time I'm going to get stuck in, make it happen. Let's finish it up. So little details in the boat can start to come in. And let's have a look. I don't want too much. I don't want any of these, you know, big lines or anything. The panels on the boat. I just don't think it needs it. But I just want a couple is okay. That I wouldn't get too bogged down. And one thing I'm looking at here is I just want this top of this boat just to read a little bit stronger. And that pushes the distance back again as well, because it's against that. All right, so we're looking good.
So I'm curious how you're going to do that rope, because the rope is right.
You wait and see. It's a bit of magic.
You don't have much time. You better hurry up.
I know. I'm hurrying.
Pressure is on, baby.
Oh, jeez, that's no good. I just wanting to just get a bit of extra tone in there for the reflection, and there as well, just so that everything reads a bit better, a bit nicer. And I'll just put it on, kill it a little bit, and that's always handy.
I can't think of a better way to spend my morning than watching you. You're mesmerized.
Oh, cool. Thanks. It's look, it's fun, and I try not to take myself too seriously, but I try also. My workshops and classes are always a fun affair, because you know we learn a lot, but I think you learn more when you're having fun, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
so
we're going to make sure we put all that in the comments.
Cool, good stuff. Yeah. All right, let's just a little bit of sorcery, bit of water. Oh yeah, it's absolutely magic. Love it.
So you can correct mistakes.
Yeah, you can. Sometimes you do it by design. So with this, like, you could have masked it out with masking fluid, but you end up with a hard edge, and this just ends up softer and nicer.
Do you ever use like a gouache white to lay over things?
Yeah, sure do. I will use some in this as well.
All right.
But it's just for me, it's just I got no problem with it ethically. Some people have a bit of a purist sort of mindset with the whole gouache and watercolor thing, but to me, life's short. You know, get the job done however you like, or
I think
however
the
you
goal is
can.
to get a great painting.
That's right, exactly right. And for the viewers, I haven't looked at my reference for you know half an hour probably. So that's the thing. You get caught up in your painting. Don't get caught up in the reference because
Yeah.
your goal is to make the painting work, not the reference. The reference is already there. So the painting is something we're creating. That's what we're after. So bit of shadowing, and it'll read properly in a second. Just put it on, kill it a little bit. That's not the end result, by the way. But a little bit there. The rope, look, the rope's gone a bit thicker than I would have liked, but that's okay. And that's the thing, you know,
You could almost put a
doesn't matter.
second black line in it and make it like it's two ropes.
You know, absolutely right, absolutely. And what we can do is I do need to quickly fix this. It's too weak. And while it's still a bit damp, I can go for it. And I'm well aware of the time. All good. We're almost there.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna keep going, but we're almost
Cool.
there.
Almost there. Almost.
I guess another way to thin that line is just to add more of the texture from the trees behind it, underneath it, to
Yep.
carve it out.
Yeah, absolutely. You could. No, no problem at all doing that. What I'll do, and I'm hoping that a bit of a highlight um, will sort of settle it down a bit and be okay. Now I'm just using a color called Buff Titanium here. It's sort of a creamy, sandy color, Daniel Smith color, and it's not. It's quite subtle. It's not as. It's a bit opaque, but it's not quite.
Not quite
Uh,
as bright.
Not quite as bright as like your Jeune Brilliant and things like that. Not quite as yellow. Um, so get that in. Now I need to just two more things. Two more things I want to do on here. Now I've got. I'm not using gouache, but not that I care. But I've just got some titanium white watercolor here, and it'll sit there, and that'll keep the purists happy because it's watercolor. So that's good. You always want to keep them happy. You don't
Are
upset
there any purists watching today? And if so, let's hear your comments.
them. Oh, do I want to hear that? I don't know.
I don't know. Is Tim a purist?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I think he's. I don't know. Tim, what are you?
What?
Are you a purist? Barbara Tapp, are you a purist? A lot of good people watching today.
Oh, cool. Good stuff. No, I hope everyone's enjoying themselves. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, how could we not? I mean, this is fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
I
Now
just,
I've got. Thank you. It's good fun, and that's the thing with watercolor. It comes together quickly, and yeah, it's entertaining when it's done properly. That's for sure. Love it. Just a bit of red straight from the tube, and this is not in the reference, of course, but we can make something of that, and it just gives the eye something else to go to. That's all.
nice.
Wouldn't do any more than that, like just a little bit. You don't
Yeah.
plaster it with color. And the very last thing I'll do before I take the tape off is like a couple of birds in, a couple of birdies in. And always remember, people, I know it sounds silly, but birds don't just fly up above the horizon. You know, they're everywhere. So whack them in. And if either you've got to do one or, 12 or 13, like just one of those things that if you do two birds, it looks a bit funny. All right. I think.
Oh, that's fabulous. Why don't you come back on camera so everybody can see your smiling face?
Oh, geez.
Oh, the magic happens when you pull the tape off.
All right, let's just do that real quick, and then I'll come straight back to the camera.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Applause. Applause. Let's
Thank
see.
you.
Do I have any applause? I don't know what I have.
Yeah, that's probably more appropriate. Good stuff.
All right, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today and getting
Pleasure.
up at 4 o'clock in the morning and being there for us. And you mesmerized me. I think a lot of people in the audience were mesmerized as well. What a fabulous
Excellent.
painter you are.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And a nice guy and so humble.
Yeah.
We hope to see more of you. We'll see you at Watercolor
too.
Live next year.
Can't wait.
And that's exciting. And we'll get you involved in some other things too, because you're so good.
Excellent. No, excellent.
Right.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And yeah, if everyone out there watching, just follow me on Insta and YouTube and all that. Just search my name and Watercolor. I'll come up everywhere.
Okay, Tony White. Tony White. Thank you so much, Tony. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.